Good evening, good evening. Good evening, good evening. I'm just going to give it a few. Let's do some housekeeping and all that jazz. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Good evening. This is Moon Magic and Mindfulness with Grace, and I'm so excited that you're here or watching in the replay. If you are team replay, please leave a comment. I would love to know where you're watching from, and if you have any questions or any comments, what resonates, what was impactful, what was funny. I would really love just to chat. Oh my goodness. Welcome. What a weekend. It is the Monday after Thanksgiving, whether you celebrate it or not. It's still a hustle and bustle type of weekend. It is still very energetically charged because everybody else celebrates, even if you don't. If you are a highly sensitive empath or a neurodivergent and you don't care for the holiday, but everyone around you does, then you may still be like emotionally or energetically affected. So it was a heavy weekend, right? And Cyber Monday is today, so don't forget all your deals. And here we are. This will be probably not a super long episode because I'm quite tapped out. We hosted, I cooked, I cleaned. I didn't cook. I didn't cook for Thanksgiving. That was a miracle. It was a Christmas miracle for me not to have to cook this Thanksgiving. And I'm very grateful for that. But we still hosted and it was a great time. But along with everything else, right? Life just gets really busy. So welcome. I'm so excited. Let's get to it. If you are new here in this show, we like to talk about where the moon is every day. The moon transitions from one zodiac sign to the next every 2 to 3 days. And every time it lands on a new zodiac sign, it changes the vibe, it changes the energy. A lot of us feel it every single time. Some of us may feel it more times than not, or the opposite, right? And the thing about the moon that I am most concerned with personally for my own practice and my own relationships, etc., is that the moon governs our feelings, our emotions, our secrets and dreams and our intuition, right? And the sun just governs our identity, how we show up, how we present ourselves, and how others see us. And so, an ICF certified coach, very concerned with how others feel, I decided to bring this personal practice into the collective, right? Because I wanted to share the depth of how astrology works or how the moon works and how we weave our life along with it. Hello, April. Welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. April says the moon tonight looks so cool here in Texas as it was rising with a pretty haze spreading across the moon at first. Yes. So tonight, it actually peaked overnight. The full moon peaked earlier at 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that would be 1 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And even though it peaked last night, essentially, it still appears just as full and it's beautiful. And it's called the Beaver Moon. So we're also going to talk about that. It's like, aside from the astrology and aside from where the moon is and how that plays a part, the Native Americans have also given every moon a specific name, and then there's just a lore for each of them, right? Like the Hunter's moon in October is one of the moons, one of the coldest ones, or maybe that's the one in December. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot there, but there is a Hunter's moon, and it's all about the wolves and how they're hunting on that specific moon more so than others, right? And this moon is called the Beaver Moon. And I like to talk about the name of the moon sometimes especially when it really correlates to some of the experiences that we are going through, or some of the things that we could potentially kind of plan to go through, right? So beavers are very resourceful and strong, and they, when it comes to figuring out what the moon theme is all about, then you just look at the name and think, well, what does this name tell me? Well, what do beavers do? What are they known for? How do they defend themselves, right? And so then you add that kind of what's the word? Not theme, but lens to your own life, and how can I embody that, right? A few months ago, my subscribers and Patreons received all about embodiment. So we've been talking about it ever since, right? How do I embody my values? What does that look like? How do I embody my truth? What does that look like, right? Embodiment is a big question, or a big deal, right, when it comes to the spiritual practice of just evolving intellectually, right? And this full moon, I feel like, has a lot going on in those terms. And then the astrology this week is pretty tough. It's one of those weeks, right? We're starting to get tired already, and it's not going to get any better, essentially, because Venus is going to do an opposition. This transit is going to be exact next week, so we're going to talk about it next week. But big transits like Venus and Pluto doing their thing, Pluto being the biggest one of all. Remember, it's the farthest one, so it represents the most obscure. And when it comes to Pluto, we feel whatever is happening way in advance and after the transit is exact. So we should already talk about it. I feel like it has to do with grief, and we all have things to grieve. We all grieve things. We have all lost people and things, right? We've all failed at some point, and grief is going to be a topic of conversation this week in my content because of this happening with Venus and Pluto. And essentially, Venus being what you value and what you hold dear and what you find so beautiful, right? Aesthetically, intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. And then Pluto being transformation, loss, the other side off, right? What that tells me is this week will probably highlight the things that we really wanted that we never got. We grieve those things as well. Of course, people that we have lost, obviously. But when it comes to Pluto, the thoughts that transpire or the emotions that transpire are not necessarily positive. So that's a fair warning, right? This week. And all the other planets are obviously doing their thing. The sun is opposite the moon right now, which is why there's a full moon. They're standing right in front of each other. And it's one of the reasons why full moons are so dramatic. And it's because there's light being shed on your emotional state, the sun shedding its light on the moon. And so your identity, your intellect, and how others perceive you versus how you really feel about things comes into conflict when there's a full moon. And I feel like the journey then becomes, or the goal then becomes, I want to be so in tune with my emotions. I want to be so in tune with my truth. And I want to be so sure of the work that I am doing that the next time the sun highlights all of these things, I am not bothered. I want to be cool, calm, collected, right? And this is something I was pondering earlier, because a lot of people are feeling the drama, and I'm not going to ask any questions, but I'm over here and I had a nice day, right? So where did I struggle? Was it emotional, or was it just physical, or production wise? There's lots of questions that can be asked about what did the full moon bring up for you, right? But in the end, the goal is emotional mastery. The goal is peace, inner peace. The goal is inner knowing, and this is what we do. This is what the journey is, right? We've been talking now for 47 episodes about how things transpire and how we progress along with all the things that are happening, right? There's just a lot. There's so much going on in the personal level and then in the collective level. And if Venus and Pluto are going to highlight values and loss and grief individually, imagine what it will do collectively and what the masses will be moved to do with that loss and that grief and that sense of transformation that can feel very uncomfortable and just not fun when it comes to Pluto. So all of that may happen this week or may come up, or we may see it or witness it in others, or we may feel it. Now, the moon, let's get to the moon. As you know, I like to go to astroseek.com. That's where I get my scoop about where is the moon today. It's in Gemini, and we're in the last straw. We're in the very last week leading up to December, right? And then it'll be done, and we'll start a new year fresh. How excited are we? Moon in Gemini. So Gemini is a mutable sign. So mutable signs are boundless as opposed to having boundaries, right? Lively, talkative, friendly. That's Gemini. Creative. Gemini wears a badge of honor that says gossip because it happens. Mercury rules Gemini, and as you know, Mercury is the planet that governs your beliefs, your ideas, your communication, right? What we say and what we don't say. It definitely governs the meaning in between the lines, right? And so Gemini, ruled by this planet that governs all of this communication, Gemini likes to talk a lot. Remember how I like to talk about the Sagittarius sign and how it's that arrow? And as a coach, I appreciate that sign, right? Because it reminds me to just continue moving forward and keep working forward. And what am I working for, right? Well, Gemini, the sign of it is the twins. And so think about this whole sense of multiple personalities, which I get it. There's a whole diagnosis about it, right? We're not going to get into that. But don't we all identify with this, especially if you're neurodivergent and you're listening? Aren't you one person with one friend and another person with another friend? You know, Taylor Swift talks about this in the Long Pond studio sessions and how we tend to really mold ourselves depending on the situation and what is needed at the time. And I'm not saying Taylor Swift is neurodivergent, but that's definitely masking, right? And so that's very Gemini. So are you struggling with masking? How is that going? Do you find yourself kind of overdoing it? I would love to know the answer to these very specific neurodivergent questions and what happens when the astrology points us to mutable signs and how they could be all over the place. So there's that, right? Plus, it's an air sign. So air communication, words, just chatty. I noticed it as soon as I woke up because the first thing I wanted to do was check in with my besties and be like, how was your night? Where's the moon? Tell me all about it. How do you feel? Right? I texted Peter. I texted my subscribers. I texted Whimsy Angela. I texted my sister. Everybody, right? First question to my child, how'd you sleep? Right? I know he slept fine, but like checking in on everybody, right? That's Gemini. And what I wanted to say about gossip is that it wears a badge of honor that says gossip, because gossip, even though it gets a bad rap, and we try very hard to keep our word impeccable and not talk about other people, gossip is really just part of our culture. Gossip is just definitely one of the main foundational tools that allowed for our history to be passed down from person to person, from generation to generation. It's really just gotten a bad rap, right? Now, I guess, in modern times, right? So that's what's happening with the moon in Gemini. And if you add to that the context of the moon illuminating your emotions, your emotional state, your emotional intelligence or lack thereof, then if you add to that the context of communication, chattiness, and gossip, I feel like there could be a disconnect, right? Because the sun is opposite the moon, and that's why it's highlighted. And an opposition means negative, right? There could be a disconnect there between how we really feel and how we articulate that. How we really feel and when we articulate how we feel, so on and so forth. So, in the end, take a deep breath, right? How best to center and how best to ground yourself than to really just pause and take a deep breath. Hold it in 4 seconds and let it go. And you do that twice, and you're definitely in the room, right? I feel like Mercury, Gemini, we could be in our head a lot. Like I said this morning in our morning call, if you are watching and you're not in a position where you can express yourself freely and authentically, this is one of the main themes that we discuss here a lot, then journal about it, right? And you add to that the context of the full moon leading into the waning moon, which is that period that allows for the relief, allows for the release of everything that the sun has illuminated that you no longer need. It's like the moon is going to highlight all of this, and every waning to first quarter leading to the new moon is the cycle that allows for you to look at it, hopefully objectively, and then decide this still works. Let's keep doing it. This doesn't work. What am I going to do about it? Am I going to change it? Am I going to let it go? Am I going to ignore it? Right? And I guarantee that if you pick to ignore something that no longer works, in the next full moon, it's going to come up again because it doesn't work. And the sun is going to highlight how you feel emotionally about it. Does that make sense? I hope so. I know it's a lot, and I'm going very fast because I'm actually also very cold, and I'm looking forward to bedtime. So, after Gemini, the moon is going to move into Cancer. It will be in Cancer Wednesday and Thursday. The moon is at home in Cancer. So when the moon is in Cancer, you might feel like you want to nurture total self-care, homey vibes, comfort food. At the same time, Cancer governs your gut, right? So you may have food sensitivities more often, not more often than not. You may have a more emphasized food sensitivity when the moon is in Cancer than any other sign. I find that very interesting. I am gluten intolerant, and I have felt that difference. So pay attention to your body. Listen to your body. What does it say? What is it telling you about the things that you consume and the things that you put in your body, right? And then we enter December 1st on Friday, and the moon is going to be Saturday and Sunday in Leo. Leo is the wildest of them all for me. When the moon is in Leo, my child is feral. I can tell that that lion within just wants to roar and come out, and it can be very exhausting. So if you're listening and you have kiddos, it would benefit you to know what is their moon sign, and to pay attention to where the moon is, because it might affect the behavior. It might affect the emotions, right? Little bodies, big emotions. If your child is neurodivergent and nonverbal or partially nonverbal like mine, then they do not tell you what's happening, right? They don't tell you what's happening. They just act out or behave a certain way, and it's up to us to interpret. And all of that I just described is governed by the moon. Isn't that so interesting, right? I love this whole conversation. So we start the week with a full moon in Gemini, and it just invites you to release all negativity and doubts. Doubts about what? Well, here's the thing. Because of Mercury and this full moon in Gemini, I feel like this week is going to open up the wound of what is it that I believe in? What is it that I stand for? Kind of like a little refresher, right? And going into Capricorn season, we're still in Sagittarius, obviously, but going into Capricorn season, we will want to definitely kind of settle on what those things are, because then by settling and deciding that this is what I stand for, this is what I believe in for now, like in parentheses, for now, gives that flexibility of, I don't know what I'm going to believe next year. We grow, we evolve, we adapt, things change, right? People come, people go. Things are lost, right? Talking about Pluto again, new things will be grieved, so on and so forth. So if you feel a certain type of pressure about deciding what you believe in and what you stand for, then maybe you want to add those little buffers that say, this is what I believe in for now. And that's okay, right? And I apologize, but my dog is barking. So, So that's the week. Thank you so much for all of the love. If you are following the Moon Magic and Mindfulness with Grace 2023 manifestation agenda / journal, I have very exciting news for you. The 2024 edition has been submitted, and I'm just waiting for it to be live so that we can all get our hands on it, even though we still have a month to go in this one. Now, before we dive into the full moon and the journal questions and the affirmations that go along with it, this episode is an episode that I remember talking about last year, because when I released this book, we talked about the fact that this full moon in Gemini was the full moon that didn't make it to the book. There is no page for you to journal or paint, and I apologize for that. But I do have questions and I do have affirmations. So grab yourself a piece of paper and write down the questions so that we can go on with the rest of the book. But next year's agenda is amazing, if I say so myself. And it's not because of what I did, it's because of the astrology. Next year just looks, let's just say, overall a bit more positive. So if you've been struggling this year, know that there is a lot of great stuff to look ahead for, to look forward to. There you go. That's what I meant to say. I can't even think. I'm so tired. It's okay. Let's get through it. This week, I will make sure to do what? What is it that you want to make sure that this week you do not forget to do? This is what you write on the agenda, right? In this agenda, we have an opportunity to journal every Monday, but it also says, right, the things that you are going to make sure to do this week. Now that I finished and submitted the 2024 agenda, I have to work on Patreon subscriber packets and newsletters. So let's get on with that. That's what it says right here. This week, I will create what? What do you want to create? Do you want to create something specific? Do you have a project in mind? Do you want to finish decorating a room? Do you want to create moments of peace? Do you want to create moments of meditation? Do you want to create more moments of laughter? What is it that you want to do? And what are you grateful for? That's always a big question for me. I like to practice gratitude right before I go to bed. I've been doing this for years. And let me tell you, once you practice gratitude right before bed, it's been my experience that there's just no way you can go to bed in a bad mood. When you really settle into gratitude, it's just a different energy. And your body receives that. Your body feels it. And it's a very calming effect. So if you haven't tried it, why not try it, right? What are you grateful for? And the thing about establishing a daily practice of it is that in the beginning, it was all, I'm grateful for food, I'm grateful for this, and I'm grateful for that. Just the little things that we tend to really be grateful for, like on the daily. But, then when those kind of daily mundane things start getting kind of repetitive in your gratitude practice, that's when, at least in my experience, right, you start digging into the deeper stuff, right? I'm very grateful for this one friend because of this. I'm very grateful that this and this and this and this happened this way and not this way that I was worried about. And then it flows, and it's a deeper connection to gratitude. And how do you go to bed frustrated or angry or sad, in my opinion? And can you experience gratitude and still be sad? It's also been my experience that absolutely. And, that's when you go to bed and you pray that you fall asleep soon. And then the next day, it's a brand new day, and hopefully you feel a little less sad, right? We all flow as best as we can. That's all there is to it. And if you can look at what you're doing and say, this is my best, then that's all there is. Now, if you are looking at your work, at your thoughts, at your actions, and say, I could do better, well, then let's get to it, right? The affirmation for this moon day, which is different from the affirmation of the full moon, is I let go of the fears that stall my progress. And I love, oh my gosh, why do I write backwards? I feel like I write backwards a lot. How can I explain that? So, this affirmation starts in the end, because in order to look at the fears that stall your progress, you first have to look at the little progress you've made so far. Where is it that you're stalling? Where is it that your progress is kind of like stalling? And then look at, what is it about this? Why am I stuck here? How do I feel? Where do I feel it in my body? And what does that tell me about this fear? And what am I avoiding? Which is one of the biggest questions, right? Like, sometimes I'll be in the kitchen because I'm avoiding a creative work, and sometimes I'll be deep in a creative work because I'm avoiding the kitchen. What are you avoiding, right? And then I am focused on my dreams and intentions. That's kind of new moon coded, but it's also Sagittarius coded because the sun is in Sagittarius still. And so it is forward thinking, forward motion, advancement. We're not giving up. We're just going to keep trying and do something different and change our mind and try again, so on and so forth, right? Sagittarius is a fire sign, but it's a mutable fire sign. So, excuse me, think about the flame that just never stills, right? That's Sagittarius. It's a different flame every single second, but it's still burning and it's still going. And I love that type of visual. It just helps me understand these things a little bit better, right? So let's get into the full moon in Gemini, questions and affirmations, so that we can then transition into our meditation, shall we? Just a reminder, if you have the book, I apologize, you don't have the pages for you to journal and paint for this full moon, but please do it anyway. I will do it tomorrow, and I will be posting all of it. So please do it, right? This is the work that we have been doing all year. So even though it's not in the book, it would be the responsible thing, right, for you to do it on another piece of paper if you want to do the whole thing, right? So question number 1. What new possibilities am I excited about to explore in my personal and intellectual journeys? New possibilities is all about Sagittarius, right? And that exploration comes from just that Gemini curiosity, right? What new possibilities am I excited to explore in my personal and intellectual journeys? Question number 2. How can I enhance my communication skills to foster deeper connections? So here's another question that kind of feels a little backwards to me, in the sense that I would start at the end and say, what are the connections that I would like to go deeper? What are the relationships that I want to deepen? And then think about that specific relationship and how I can foster better communication, because communicating in this relationship is 100% different than communicating in this relationship or in this friendship, right? This is what I was telling earlier. This is what I was saying earlier. I communicate with my sister a very different way than I communicate with my husband, but they're both communication, right? And I'm not necessarily masking. It's just 100% logical that I would communicate differently with my sister than with my spouse. Is that just logical for me? Or does it make sense, right? You have a power dynamic type of relationship with your boss, and you're going to communicate in that relationship different than you're going to communicate at the Starbucks with your BFF, right? So think about the relationship that you would like to deepen. What relationship, friendship, what do you want to call it, right? Um, what relationship would you like to just go deeper into, and then decide, how can I foster better communication, which means I have to look at, how is this communication sucky at this time and how can I make it better, right? All of these questions are meant to be little rabbit holes for you to just dive into. And if you are looking at these questions and struggling with how I interpret that or how I go into that rabbit hole, then book a call. This is what the coaching job and coaching conversation is all about. It is about assisting you in highlighting all of the things that you need to shed light on in order to get your life moving forward. It's a beautiful journey, totally worth it, and it really does not just save lives, but it changes lives, right? That's the point. So those are the two questions for the full moon in Gemini. As always, what can I release? What can I let go? What is not working for me right now that I would like to just be at peace with? That's a very good full moon question, not just the full moon in Gemini, but in general. And then affirmations for today's full moon are: I am open to the boundless possibilities that surround me. That can be a dangerous statement, right? Be careful what you wish for. To announce and to affirm that you are open for possibilities will absolutely then turn into options and possibilities coming your way. Now, the question is, are you awake enough and in tune enough to feel and see them? Or are you sleepwalking, right? Into life? I feel like if you're watching this is because you're interested in what being awake and being aware is about and moving that wheel along, right? So I'm open to boundless possibilities that surround me. My words are a bridge to understanding and connection. Now, that's a great affirmation to say, right? Or to believe, specifically when you are about to have a difficult conversation, when you are about to have a tricky interaction with some of these relationships that could potentially be worked on or that you would like to enhance or go deeper in, right? So my words are a bridge to understanding and connection kind of sets the tone for your soul and your brain to be in alignment about what your words are going to be moving forward. Does that make sense? And that's it. Yay, we did it. And I apologize for rushing through all of this, but it has been a weekend and I am very excited for bedtime today. So let's get to our meditation. See, I couldn't even think of the word. I was going to say affirmation and then my brain blanked. Music for this meditation is brought to you by Brain FM. If you would like to try it for free, there's a free trial in the link in my bio. And I absolutely love their timer that tells you how long you've been listening, and their genres. You can change the genres. So one of my favorites for bedtime for sleeping is underwater. Underwater is so fun because I really feel like I'm just floating there. And here in the show, we like to listen to chimes and bowls. So settle down. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose. Deep, deep, deep breath in all the way. Hold it at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out. Let it go through your mouth, nice and slow. All the way. Hold it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe in again. Once more through your nose. Deep, deep, fill in your lungs all the way. Hold it at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, and release through your mouth, nice and slow. All the way till you have no air. And as you settle into that exhale, imagine yourself sitting on a lovely meadow with the full moon in full force, everything illuminated, everything highlighted, and everything so beautiful. And as you look around in the light of the moon, in this beautiful place, I want you to really feel in your body that sense of calm and peace and love and reassurance. And if those feelings evade you, then say the words and feel how they settle in to your body. And nice and calm in this moment with this full moon, I want you to remember that you are strong enough to let go of the fears that stall your progress. And remember, I am focused on my dreams and intentions. I am open to boundless possibilities that surround me. My words are a bridge to understanding and connection. With me, take one more deep breath through your nose, nice and slow. Just fill your lungs all the way to the top. Hold it at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, and release nice and slow through your mouth. Long breath out all the way. Hold it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe in again. Nice and slow. Last time. Fill your lungs. Hold it at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale nice and slow through your mouth. Nice and slow all the way. And as you settle into that exhale, Remember and settle into these words. I am ready for a marvelous week ahead, filled with joy and moments of mindfulness and love. I am grateful, safe, and protected. And as you say those words and settle into that feeling, remember how unique and important you are. Let's just breathe one last time through your nose. Deep, 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 deep breath. Fill your lungs all the way. Feel it in your belly and your shoulders as they lift when you inhale. Hold it at the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, and release through your mouth. Nice and slow. All the way till you have no air. Hold it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and settle down. And as you breathe normal, nice and slow, bring your attention to your body and to this moment. Open your eyes and come back to me. And here we are. Yay. Again, I'm so excited for next year's book. I cannot wait to have it in my hands. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Let me know if you have any questions about this book release or where to find it. It will be available on Amazon. And of course, if you are subscribed to my newsletter or you are a subscriber, you will be the first to know. And I'm so grateful and excited for next year. Once we have the book, we will talk a little bit more about what's happening. Thank you so much, April, for joining live and for being here for all of this. I'm so grateful for you and extremely excited for what you will create next year, right? So thank you again so much. Find me on Instagram at songofmyself.ig, on TikTok at somecoaching.tt, or you can go ahead and book a call in my website, www.somcoaching.com. I love you all, and I will see you next Monday. Bye, everybody.